My name is Elsa May Whitaker, and I am 78 years old. I have lived long enough to know that silence can be louder than thunder, and kindness can be sharper than knives. The night before Kyle's graduation, I ironed my dress. Soft cotton, pale blue, long sleeves. Not fancy, but respectable. The collar was frayed, the hem was loose, but I pressed it like it mattered, because it did. I stood in front of the mirror, longer than I meant to. The face staring back at me had lines etched deep, each one carved by nights I stayed awake with Linda when she was sick, or when I worked double shifts to pay for her braces. Sometimes I don't recognize the woman looking back, but the ache in her eyes, that I know too well. On the dresser sat a half-empty bottle of perfume. My late husband gave it to me once, nearly 3 decades ago. He said it made me smell like spring. He's been gone 27 years. Still, I wear it when I want to feel real. That night, I dabbed it on my wrists, just a drop. Kyle was graduating. My grandson, Linda's only son, my only grandchild. I wasn't invited, not forgotten, not overlooked, unwanted. But still, I woke early, caught the 8:15 bus into town, and walked the last 6 blocks to the grand event hall. In one hand, I carried 3 sunflowers, his favourite. In the other, a small envelope with a card inside. Just one sentence written in my neatest cursive: "I'm proud of you." The event hall looked like something out of a movie. Columns, red carpet, valet parking, balloons strung high. Parents in designer suits and dresses streamed inside, laughing, taking photos. I stayed outside near the curb, close enough to see, far enough not to be seen. That was the plan. Until Linda spotted me. She stepped out of a black town car wearing a white silk dress and pearl earrings. Her hair curled just right, her lipstick perfect. For a moment she looked straight past me, but then her eyes landed, narrowed and hardened. She walked toward me like I was a stain on her porch.
Mother, what are you doing here?
I opened my mouth, but no words came.
You weren't invited. Don't embarrass me. These people, they don't need to see this.
She waved her hand at me as if brushing away dust.
You're not part of this world. You're my past. A past I worked hard to bury. Don't you dare dig it up.
I clutched the sunflowers tighter. I just wanted to say congratulations.
Say it from across the street, or better yet, don't. Do you think showing up in that dress with your thrift store perfume and Goodwill shoes is love? It's humiliation.
Then she turned her back on me, just like that. And that was when I saw him, Kyle, my grandson, walking up the steps in his cap and gown, surrounded by friends. I called his name softly, almost afraid to speak it out loud. He stopped, looked at me, not with joy, not even surprise, just discomfort. His lips curled.
Old hag, what are you doing here?
I held out the sunflowers with shaking hands. I wanted to see you graduate. He glanced at the flowers like they were garbage.
Why?
Because I'm proud of you. He blinked, then spoke colder than winter.
You don't belong here. You don't even know what school this is.
I swallowed hard. I don't have to. I know you. He laughed, sharp, bitter.
You think showing up now makes a difference? You weren't there for the fundraisers, the interviews, the tours. You didn't help. You don't matter.
My knees trembled, but I whispered, I raised your mother. I gave her everything I had.
That was your job. And honestly, I'm tired of hearing about your sacrifices.
He turned to leave, but before he did, he looked back one more time. His voice cut through me like a blade.
You're not someone to be proud of. You're just something we had to overcome.
The words echoed in my chest long after he walked inside. I froze there on the curb, sunflowers wilting in my hand, silence pressing heavy all around me. For the first time in my life, I wondered if love really could break. And then, I felt a presence beside me. A voice, soft and unfamiliar.
Ma'am, you okay?
I turned my head, and for the first time that day, saw a stranger standing in the sunlight. The voice startled me. Gentle, concerned. A sound I hadn't heard in years. Not from Linda, not from Kyle. I turned and saw a boy in a wrinkled graduation gown. 17, maybe 18. Thin shoulders, curly brown hair that refused to stay combed down, and shoes that looked like they'd walked through more than just a ceremony. In one hand, he held a cheap water bottle, beads of condensation rolling down the plastic. In the other, a folded graduation program stuffed into his pocket. His eyes, not polished, not cold, just human.
Ma'am, it's real hot out. You sure you're okay?
I blinked, throat tight. Oh, I'm fine, son. But my voice betrayed me. The words cracked, dry, unconvincing. He didn't leave. Instead, he held out the water bottle.
Here, take this.
I shook my head. I don't need...
Please.
Not pushy, not pitying, just steady. And before I could argue, the bottle was in my hand. I whispered, "Thank you." The lump in my throat softened. Just a little. He smiled. I repeated it slowly, like tasting it for the first time. "Noah, that's a good name." He nodded toward the event hall.
You here for someone?
My chest tightened. I almost said my grandson, but the words stuck. I was. Noah didn't press. He just lowered himself onto the bench beside me like it was the most natural thing in the world. We sat in silence, me clutching wilted sunflowers, him with his gown bunched around his knees. After a moment, he reached into his robe and pulled out a granola bar. I let out a surprised laugh. My first that day. "No, thank you, but that's kind." He shrugged.
You remind me of my grandma.
I smiled faintly. "Is she around?" His face shifted, quieting.
She passed 2 years ago, cancer.
My heart ached for him. "I'm sorry." He nodded, eyes steady but heavy.
She would have liked you, though. She was the only one who remembered my birthday, every year.
I stared at him. This boy I had never met. Yet in his voice, I felt something I hadn't in a long time. Recognition. We sat together while cheers echoed from across the street, muffled but warm each time a name was called. Finally, I whispered, "It's been a long time since anyone called me ma'am without rolling their eyes." Noah grinned.
Well, you deserve it.
And for the first time in years, I believed it. But little did I know that small kindness, that single water bottle, would change everything. And before the night was over, I would make a choice that would shake my entire family. That night, after Kyle walked across the stage and Noah drifted back into the crowd, I returned to the house. Not mine, Linda's. But I had lived there for 7 years, tucked away, quiet as dust in the corners. Not in a bedroom, not in a guest room, in a converted storage closet. They moved me there after Kyle turned 12 and demanded my old room for a gaming setup. So they gave me his overflow. A twin mattress on the floor, no bed frame, one electrical socket, no windows. But I said thank you, because mothers don't complain. Not after giving their youth, their health, their spine. Every morning I rose before anyone else. I brewed coffee, fed the dog, folded laundry no one asked me to fold. I scrubbed the tub after Linda's husband shaved, cleaned grease off the stove after Linda's late-night cooking experiments. Not once did I hear thank you. Instead, Linda would walk in from yoga class, toss her bag on the counter, and sigh.
Can't you make yourself useful?
I was useful, just invisible. A mother once, a ghost now. Sometimes, while folding towels, I remembered when Linda was 6, small for her age, timid. The other girls called her garbage girl because her shoes were worn, and because I worked nights at the diner. My uniform always smelled of fried grease. She cried for a week straight. One morning I marched into her classroom still wearing my apron, hair pinned with bobby pins slipping loose. I dropped to my knees in front of the teacher, begged her to intervene. I would have scrubbed that classroom floor with a toothbrush if it meant my little girl could breathe without tears. The teacher looked down at me like I was begging for a discount. Linda never forgot that moment, but not for the reason I hoped. Years later, when we argued about me moving in with her, she spat it out like poison.
I still remember you kneeling like a dog in that hallway. Do you know how embarrassing that was?
I blinked. You were crying every night. She shrugged.
I would have figured it out. I didn't need a martyr. I needed a mother who wasn't pathetic.
Her words stung worse than any slap. And yet, here I was, folding her laundry, cooking her meals, breathing in silence. As I sat alone in the kitchen that night, listening to the hum of the fridge and the tick of the clock, I thought of Noah, the way he had offered me water without hesitation, the way he had said, "You deserve it." And for the first time in years, I felt a flicker, a whisper, like maybe I wasn't a ghost after all. But I also knew something else. If Linda or Kyle ever discovered where my money had gone, that flicker would ignite into a firestorm. And deep down, part of me wanted it to burn. There's a picture of my husband on the nightstand. He's young in it, his arm around me, his smile a little crooked, like he couldn't quite believe I was his. His name was Walter. He smelled of sawdust and fresh-cut grass, and he laughed with his whole chest. He used to dance me around the kitchen in his work boots, even when there wasn't music. We had plans once, Colorado, a little house near the mountains, fresh start. He wanted to take us both, Linda and me, but Linda was 10 then, and her asthma scared me. The altitude, the distance, the thought of her feeling second to a man she barely knew. I said no. I chose Linda. Walter kissed my forehead, said he understood, but something in his eyes dimmed that night. 3 months later, he was gone. Heart gave out on a Tuesday. He was 39. Linda was all I had left. I threw myself into raising her, skipped dinners so she could have lunch money, worked Christmas shifts so she'd have presents under the tree. I carried her through childhood like she was glass, fragile, precious, the only piece of Walter I had left. But somewhere along the way, my devotion turned into her weapon. She started seeing my sacrifices not as love, but as shame. The apron that smelled of grease, the hands cracked from scrubbing dishes, the long nights where exhaustion made me quiet instead of cheerful. She wanted a mother who looked like the other mothers. Clean nails, clean cars, clean lives. And instead, she got me. I remember the night it shifted. She was 14, standing in the bathroom doorway, holding a platinum blonde wig from her after-school job as a photographer's assistant. She looked at me, hair undone, apron stained, and said,
"Mom, you look like a mall Santa after midnight."
The words stung, but I didn't cry. I just placed the wig gently in her hands and said, "You taught me how to make a costume look real. That skill will take you places." She glared, slammed the door, and I knew something had cracked between us. What I didn't know then, what I couldn't imagine, was how wide that crack would grow. Because years later, standing outside Kyle's graduation, I saw it in full. The crack had become a canyon, and Linda wasn't reaching for me anymore. She was pushing me in. They called it a guest room. It wasn't. It was a storage closet they cleared out after Kyle decided he wanted a gaming room instead. So they moved me, his grandmother, Linda's mother, into the overflow space. No windows, one electrical socket, a twin mattress laid flat on the floor, no bed frame. But I said thank you, because mothers don't complain. That's how the years passed. 7 of them. 7 years of making myself small enough to fit between boxes of old holiday decorations and crates of winter coats nobody wore anymore. Every morning, I woke before dawn, brewed the coffee, fed the dog, scrubbed the counters Linda never noticed were clean. Not once did I hear thank you. Instead I heard, "You missed a spot. Can't you make yourself useful?"
Godmother, you're not the head of this house. You're not even the help. The help gets paid.
That line stuck. Not even the help. Because at least help is seen. I was just there, a placeholder, a ghost who cooked rice and folded laundry nobody admitted was folded by someone else. Sometimes, after everyone went to bed, I'd sit in the kitchen in the dark, just me, the hum of the fridge, the ticking of the wall clock, and I'd ask myself the question that gnaws at every old woman eventually. Was it worth it? All the skipped dinners, all the birthday shifts at the diner because tips were better on holidays. All the nights I walked home under street lamps, aching, just so Linda could have shoes without holes. If you asked Linda, she'd say no. She'd say I failed because I made her feel poor, because I embarrassed her. But I gave her everything I had. And now I folded her laundry in silence, invisible, while she told her friends I was just staying temporarily. Temporary stretched 7 years and still counting. But as I sat there that night after Kyle's graduation, staring at the wilted sunflowers in my lap, I realized something. Silence doesn't just protect, it sharpens. And one day soon, silence would be the knife I'd use. It was a Thursday night, the kind where the house smelled of roasted chicken and rosemary. I had cooked, of course. I always cooked. Linda swept in late, her heels clicking against the tile, her perfume filling the air before she even entered the dining room. Kyle followed behind, taller now, his phone glued to his hand like it was stitched there. I set the food down carefully. Chicken, mashed potatoes, green beans, simple but warm.
Finally.
We bowed our heads for grace, though Linda rushed through it, tapping her fork impatiently against her plate. When she looked up, her eyes landed on me.
"You didn't clean the oven. Grease all over the tray this morning."
I opened my mouth, then closed it. There was no point in reminding her I had cooked that tray of lasagna for Kyle's friends at midnight the night before. I just whispered, "I'll get it tomorrow." She sighed, the way someone sighs when their order's wrong at a restaurant.
Mother, can't you make yourself useful without being told?
Kyle chuckled under his breath. The sound, sharp, dismissive, cut deeper than any insult. I stared at my plate, fingers trembling on the fork, but inside something shifted, like a lock clicking open in a door I hadn't touched in years, because I knew something Linda didn't, something Kyle couldn't imagine. In a drawer beneath my thin mattress sat an envelope. Inside that envelope, a check. 10 years of tips and coupons and coats worn 1 year too long. $100,000. Every penny saved for Kyle. But that night, as Linda sneered across the table, as Kyle smirked at my silence, I made a decision. That money would never be theirs. Not anymore. And from that moment on, every dish I scrubbed, every sock I folded, every insult I swallowed, I wasn't their ghost. I was their shadow. And one day I would step out of it. The word came out of Linda's mouth like a stone through glass. Burden. It was a Sunday afternoon. The sun slanted through the blinds, stripes of light across the dining room floor. I was wiping down the counter after making lunch, grilled cheese for Kyle, salad for Linda, when she said it.
Mother, do you ever think about moving to a nursing home? You know, someplace where you wouldn't be a burden?
I froze. The rag went still in my hand. A burden, not a mother. Not a woman who had raised her alone when Walter died. Not the woman who worked double shifts to keep shoes on her feet, who had marched into her school in a grease-stained apron to beg a teacher for mercy. Just a burden. I swallowed hard. Linda, I thought I was helping here. I clean, I cook, She cut me off with a wave of her manicured hand.
Yes, but you live here. People ask questions, you know. My friends wonder why you're still around. It's awkward.
She's not wrong, Grandma. It's kind of weird, like, shouldn't you have your own place by now?
I stood there, the rag limp in my hand, my chest hollow. A burden, awkward, weird. I smiled because that's what women of my generation do. We smile when our hearts fracture. We smile so no one sees the blood in our throats. But that night, lying on my thin mattress in the storage closet, I stared at the ceiling and felt something crack open. I thought of the envelope of savings under my bed. I thought of the house Walter and I once dreamed of buying. I thought of every dollar I'd scraped together from tips, every coat I wore 1 year too long so Linda could have something new. And I thought, why should they inherit what they despise? The next morning I walked to the bank. Slow steps but steady. And I began the quiet work of moving pieces. Shifting accounts, signing forms, building walls of paper that Linda and Kyle would never climb. They didn't know it, but the clock had started ticking. One day, they'd call me a burden again. And that day, I'd show them just how heavy a burden can be when it finally lands. It started with a letter. Plain white envelope, government seal in the corner. I had tucked it into my purse, planning to read it later, but Linda got to the mail first. She slit it open, standing at the kitchen counter in her silk blouse, sipping her overpriced coffee. Her eyes scanned the page, her brows lifted, then narrowed. Mother, why are you getting correspondence from a bank I've never heard of? My hands stayed steady as I folded the dish towel. Because it's my account. Her laugh was sharp, hollow. Your account? What money could you possibly have? I met her eyes then, letting the silence answer. Kyle wandered in, phone in hand. What's going on? Your grandmother's playing games. Apparently she's got secrets. Your grandmother's playing games, Linda snapped. She shoved the letter at him. Kyle read, frowning. Wait, you have savings, and you let me ask you for gas money last month? Wait, you have savings? He looked up, incredulous. And you let me ask you for gas money last month? I smiled, thin and quiet. Yes. Linda's lips pressed into a hard line. Mother, don't be ridiculous. You're too old to be handling finances. Give me the paperwork. I'll manage it properly. No, I said simply. Her eyes flared. Kyle scoffed. You think you're clever, don't you? Hiding things, acting like you're in control, but you're not. You live under my roof. Don't forget that. I didn't flinch, didn't argue. Just let the silence hang between us, thick as smoke. Because in truth, the house wasn't hers. Not anymore. And soon enough, she'd find out exactly how wrong she was. It was after dinner when it happened. Linda had her glass of Chardonnay. Kyle had his phone glowing in his hand. I had my tea. The envelope sat between us on the table. I had placed it there deliberately, thick, heavy, waiting. Linda tapped her nails against the wood. What is this? Read it, I said. She slit it open with a steak knife, skimmed the first page, then the colour drained from her face. Kyle leaned over her shoulder. His eyes darted across the lines, widening with each sentence. This is your will. You transferred everything, the house, the accounts, the stocks. Yes, to who? Not us. I sipped my tea. No, not you. You ungrateful witch. After everything I've done for you, every bill paid, every night worked, every sacrifice made, and you never once said thank you. So you give it all to some stranger, some charity case. What about me? I'm your grandson. I met his eyes. Cold, clear. Being born doesn't make you worthy. Being kind does. You think this is final? We'll fight it. We'll sue. You can't just... Oh, but I can. 30 years as a legal secretary taught me exactly how. The room went still. Their fury crackled in the air, but my silence cut sharper than their screams. You'll regret this. I smiled. No, Linda. For the first time in a long time, I won't. The morning sun was pale and kind when Noah came by. He still knocked softly, like he was afraid to disturb the air. I invited him in, and we sat at the same kitchen table, where Linda had once torn me apart with her words. But this time the air was different. I slid a binder across the table. He looked down at it, confused. What's this, Mum? Your future, I said simply. He opened it slowly. His brow furrowed, then lifted as he read the pages. Trust documents, property transfers, the foundation paperwork. This is everything. Yes, everything I built, everything they thought they deserved, but why me? I reached for his hand. His fingers trembled against mine. Because you were kind when no one else was. Because you carried groceries without asking, shared water without expecting, offered company without condition. Blood didn't earn this, Noah. Character did. I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it well. Say you'll build something better than the bitterness I leave behind. I will. I promise. That night, Linda stormed into the kitchen again, Kyle at her heels. They had finally pieced it all together. The trust, the transfers, the absence of their names. You can't do this. The binder was gone. The accounts were sealed. The house already in Noah's name. All that remained for Linda and Kyle was silence. The same silence they had once forced on me. I poured myself a cup of tea and sat at the table, calm as spring rain. Revenge doesn't need noise. It doesn't need applause. It only needs to last. And mine would. Long after Linda's pearls lost their shine, long after Kyle's diploma gathered dust, Noah would carry my name forward, not in blood, but in kindness. And that was my final victory.